I hope that Africa can take a note, and I hope that South Africa can take a note from the brave leadership that we've seen in the Sahel region of Africa. People like Captain Ibrahim Traore.
Good morning world, good afternoon world. In this video I'm reacting on this clip of American activist Hanky Jackson, who has called upon African leaders to follow the footsteps of Ibrahim Traore.
The ambassador started off his comments by quoting Nelson Mandela, the famous quote, asked me by how many times I stood up after I fell. I'd like to quote one of my American comrades, the former President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who said, "I ask you to judge me by the enemies that I have made." When you look at Russia and you look at Africa, it's no part of their own doing, but the enemies that have been made in both Africa and Russia are enemies of humanity. It's the West, the collective West, and it's not the Western civilization, people like me, it's people who sit in the White House and who sit in the deep state, as we call it. Now, there may have been a change of guard in Washington, D.C. just past week, but there's not a change of heart. There's not a change of soul. If you look at the Secretary of State that was just selected, Marco Rubio, he is a neoconservative that wants to continue the subjugation of Africa, continue the subjugation and slavery of Latin America, and wants to continue the policies that have brought about so much of the misery, the sorrow, and the chaos that we have seen in Africa and Latin America and the whole global South for decades upon decades, far before I was ever born. I hope that Africa can take a note, and I hope that South Africa can take a note from the brave leadership that we've seen in the Sahel region of Africa. People like Captain Ibrahim Traore, Mr. Chiani in Niger, people who are fighting for true sovereignty and who understand that humanity and war are equals, that war is just about being human, and that if you're not willing to threaten everything for the collective existence of your civilization, then you have no dignity, you have no honor at all. Russia understood that, and that's why they went in to go liberate the people of the Donbass, those who were suffering under the persecution of the Nazis in Kiev for years and years and years, back since even before 2014, when there was the Orange Revolution in Kiev in 2004, backed by the United States. So I see a lot of great minds coming out of South Africa. I see a lot of great movements coming out of South Africa, but until you're willing to actually stand up to the beast in the United States, like me and many of my comrades are trying to do right now, there will be no true sovereignty for South Africa. You'll have the same old, you'll have the continued economic order. Of course, South Africa was able to do away with the discrimination that plagued this country during apartheid. But did the economic order really change? I don't think so. And until South Africa is willing to truly stand up to the West and, absolve itself of its past political mistakes, there will be no true sovereignty. So from America, I say many of us love you. We appreciate the struggle that you're all fighting for. We see it as a continued struggle that we fought for in 1776. If I were to draw on the history of China and the history of Iran and Korea and Russia, there's one bottom line determining factor with all of them, and that's that before their revolutions, before they commanded respect, the situation in each one of those countries was not great, whether it was being indebted to Western banksters, whether it was a series of illegal coups or regime change operations or assassinations. These countries did not command respect on the global stage to the Western imperialists. That's the same problem that Africa is facing today. There is no respect that is commanded to the imperialists except for the new confederation in Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. And we've seen Russia come in and help secure the region against the US-backed threats from Al-Qaeda and other terrorist groups. But ultimately, I think that Africa needs to learn from China, from Korea, from Iran, and from Russia, who first had these beautiful revolutions that commanded the respect. Then they developed their militaries, they developed nuclear bombs, they developed all these sorts of things, and then they built their economies. We're sitting here and we're talking about being in the United Nations, having a rotating seat in the United Nations Security Council. We're talking about the economic plans of Africa in the future, new currencies, African Union. All of that doesn't mean a whole lot if the West is going to come in and trample all over you. What good is a seat at the United Nations if they're not going to listen to you? The United States has to listen to China. They have to listen to Russia because China and Russia have a bunch of nuclear bombs that are already pointed at every Western city. Now, of course, I support Africa having nuclear bombs. I understand we're far away from that, and maybe it's a bit controversial to say that. But what I think we also need to understand is that Africans are dealing with the same issues that the American citizens are dealing with under our own regime. Americans are dealing with fraudulent elections. We're dealing with censorship. We're dealing with the monopoly of land and private capital. And until Americans and Africans are able to command respect, then there really is no future for either of our peoples. Ultimately, to sum up, I want to bring in the point of Ukraine as well, because Ukraine did something very interesting recently. Zelensky realizes that the front line in Ukraine is collapsing. The Russians are moving in. So what did he do? He threatened the ability for Ukraine to be able to develop nuclear bombs. He said, Ukraine can develop a nuclear bomb in several weeks. And then everyone got very worried about that. I think the West needs to get very worried about the potential for Africa to assert its own sovereignty and command respect in the same way that we're seeing in the new Confederation states, but all across Africa. And maybe it only starts with one or two nations, but that's exactly what we saw with Iran and Syria. And now look at the United States proxy of Israel. Israel's collapsing because they understand that the strength of Iran and the strength of Syria with the backing of Russia is, it's completely incomparable to the strength of Israel, who would undoubtedly lose in a conventional war against these nations and their proxies all across the region. So I think the question of military power is extremely important, and it actually comes before the question of economic power or trade routes or currencies or any of these things. So I hope to see more bold leadership, even in the case of Niger. Victoria Nuland was too afraid to tell Nigeria to invade Niger because she understood the military power of these Sahel states with the backing of Russia. They wanted to do an ECOWAS invasion, and with the intervention of Russia and China and the military backing in the Sahel states, they understood in the United States that this was a no-go, that they couldn't do it. So I hope in my lifetime, I'll end here, that we'll see a nuclear Africa. We're already seeing Russia. Rosatom is talking about bringing nuclear reactors into Burkina Faso, but I hope one day it's nuclear bombs.
I'm so surprised that we have to be reminded by the white supremacy too to follow the lead of someone else, or to follow example of someone else as African leaders. It is the work of African leaders to know what's best for us, what's best for the continent, and decide that's the path to follow. But as African leaders, most of them, they are asleep. Most of them, they are corrupt. Most of them, they don't want to change. They don't want anything to make a change for the planet or for the continent Africa. Now it has taken American activists to tell us, to tell the leaders of Africa to follow the steps of Ibrahim Traore so that they can make America great again, or they can make Africa great. I don't know what came in the mind of these activists so that he decided to give that free advice, which is a good advice. But again, I do not trust the fact that it's the white people giving us that advice, you know. I don't now trust the fact that it's American activist who is giving African leaders advice to follow the lead of someone, you know. But it's a good thing. It's a good thing that Ibrahim Traore is being recognized globally as someone who is trying to bring change to the world, to bring change to Africa, to bring change to the country like Burkina Faso. It is evident that Ibrahim Traore is doing what it takes to liberate Africa. Now, I urge most of the leaders of Africa, as the activists have just said, we are the one to liberate ourselves. And We have good leaders back then in Africa that we did not take serious of them. We only remember them when they have already gone. Sometimes, right now, we are talking about Muammar Gaddafi, we are talking about Thomas Sankara, we are talking about, the leaders who were capable to change Africa. And yet, while they were here, we did not take, their advice, or we did not celebrate them, or we did not follow their steps. Now, here is Ibrahim Traore, a young president of Burkina Faso, doing great. I saw leaders, for example, from Kenya, saying that that's not a good way, saying that Burkina Faso is not a democratic country, saying that the captain, Ibrahim Traore, is not the best for Burkina Faso people. And I'm like, why should you not support the fellow man who is doing great? I saw Nana Akufo-Addo in a statement somehow he made. He does not accept the steps that Ibrahim Traore is taking. These are the words from the puppets leaders. This is Kenyan president, that's Ghanaian president. Both of them, we know them as puppet leaders. So they will not want to see anything that will change the fate of their masters, anything that will chase their masters out of Africa. But it's time as African leaders and African people to support the best and to call to action right now, because if it's now, it's now. It's now or never. This is the time we can only focus on the growth of Africa. This is the time we can only focus on the restating the continent Africa. This is the time we can only say that Africa, we are making it great, because we have the youths who are energetic, learned, we have technology, we have the youths who, they don't fear the change. It's better we change now than we cry later. So it's our mandate as the people of Africa to remind our leaders, or to choose leaders who have the integrity and they can do the best for the people. We don't want leaders who are, giving away our resources, who are, incompetent, most corrupt leaders, only thinking of themselves. It's time for us, the people of African countries, to choose our leaders through election, this free and fair election, to choose our leaders according to what we want. Because we know people who are good, maybe opposition leaders, maybe some leaders who doesn't get votes at all. We know people who are good. There's no better country or better tomorrow that comes without pain, So it's better we suffer right now, but we enjoy later. So I think we as the youths of Africa, we as the people of Africa who are seeing this, it's our mandate not to follow what our ancestors did, not to make mistakes again. This is the right time. If Ibrahim Traore is doing great and he can teach other leaders something good, I urge the leaders of Africa to join hands with Ibrahim Traore, to join hands with Mali, to join hands with Niger, and to make great moves that will help the people of Africa. It's time now. We cannot make mistakes again. If we make mistakes again, we cannot come out of it. We can't come out of this. So this video of American activist Jackson saying that African leaders should follow the steps of Ibrahim Traore is one of the best videos I've seen from the white supremacists, but with question marks. Your people are here in Africa exploiting Africa. Your people are here in Africa, your country or your officials, your countries here in Africa making moves, negative moves, exploiting, doing all sorts of bad things. But you as the activist, you are calling for the better deal. I don't know, but people change. So we are calling African leaders to follow the footsteps of Ibrahim Traore. Look for new friends. Invest in education. Invest in agriculture. Invest in your country so that we can have a better Africa and a better tomorrow. I don't know what you say on the comment section. Of course, this is the a great topic and we need to talk about it. Tell me what you think on the comment section. Until next episode, I say peace be with you.